Hi, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
Thank you so much for. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. So before we get started, we just ask that if you could please just stay on mute until you're called on for your turn to ask a question. And on this first round of questions, if you wouldn't mind, please just saying your name and your outlet so that Peter knows who he's speaking to. And we will get started today with Ashley,
I
please.
like how festive lots of you are. You're matching our.
Yeah, you're festive too.
Yeah, we got to do it, right?
Heck yeah. Well, hi, Peter. I'm Ashley from With
Hi,
Ashley
Ashley.
and Co. Thank you so much for taking time to talk with us today.
Yeah,
So I'm
pleasure.
pretty sure I'm cured of ever wanting a casserole or ever even wanting to look at a casserole again. So thanks for that. Um, so what was it like reuniting with your former castmates and kind of jumping back into this story and the mindset and stuff?
Well, that was an important aspect, I think, bringing the original kids back. All the kids from the original film are in this. Um, you're right. It's been nearly 40 years, I think 39 years. So it's one of the longer ever, I think, original cast to, if not the longest, to sequel. And I think for me, you guys can obviously relate to this. Exploring the idea of Ralphie as a parent was finally kind of a way back in. And I had been approached over the years, obviously, to do stuff. Nothing felt right. I had produced the musical, which I loved. And outside of that, hadn't done anything. But I think this idea of the original, where it's a kid, and for those that are parents, your kids are obsessed with whatever they happen to want for Christmas, no matter what it is. As crazy as it is all they want. And the first movie is based on that. But then as a parent, you get you want Christmas to be perfect for them. And, you can feel this pressure to put on a great Christmas. And I think the timing being right with the passing of the old man, calling him home, those elements felt like they were the right ways to bring Ralphie back.
Thank you.
Adam, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Adam Cohn with DeadRocks.com. So I'd like to ask you a question about your role of fatherhood in this movie and how much does it translate to your role of fatherhood in real life?
Yeah, it's I think being a father in real life and understanding that I have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so I'm in the thick of it, so to speak. Definitely you're able to, I think, draw from that. And as I said, the idea of Ralphie being a dad was probably the key way back in for me. What would his family look like? What kind of dad would he be? Has some big shoes to fill in the old man. Would he measure up to that? I have a close relationship with my father and so you're able to draw a lot from that. And I do think the idea of that passing of a parent and sort of that's really that's when you grow up. It's like you have your own kids, your parent is gone, your dad's gone. So as a dad, there's pressure to sort of step into that role and get handed the Christmas reins. And so there's definitely a lot of overlap. I don't need anything or want anything for Christmas, but you do want your kids to have a great one.
Right. And Diane, please.
Hello, I'm Diane from 3 Decades, 3 Kids.
Hi, Diane.
And
First
of all, I loved the movie. I absolutely loved it. You were phenomenal in it. I was wondering how it was going to play out the entire movie, and it worked. It just worked. It was absolutely wonderful. One of my favorite parts was the ending. Could you tell me a little bit, was that emotional? How was it to do the end of the movie?
Yeah. Thank you. I think the movie's a little more emotional, maybe even to some degree than some of us expected. The original is, I know Gene Shepard, who wrote the source material for the original, was very kind of anti-saccharine and, didn't want things to be earnest and it's good. But I'll tell you that first one, when he gets the gun, you kind of well up, you do get emotional because the whole movie builds to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, I think, builds to some climactic emotion as well. It really was, I think, in some ways kind of defining Christmas, right? Which can be, that movie is an actual gift, but what is Christmas? And that voiceover in the end, which is the house was filled with life, laughter, and love once again. that's kind of what you're aiming for. I think, Christmas is messy, brings out the best in us, can bring out the worst in us all.
Yeah.
3 decades, 3 kids. I'm sure you've been through it, right? It's
Mhm.
right. It's why I love it. It's why it makes great Christmas movies, because it really can be
Mhm.
messy. It can be hostile. It can be loving. It can be all those things. And so I think, to land there in the end was sort of the right way to kind of land the plane, so to speak. That
Right.
it's not, but it's being together. It's being grateful for what you do have. It's appreciating, which is kind of where he lands. It's not what he thought it could be or wanted, but it was perfect because he's with the
It
people that
was
he
so
loves.
real. It was just so real. Like it really hit home with that. I just loved it.
Oh,
I
well,
loved
thank
it.
you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. And Diane with FSM Media, please.
Hi, Peter.
Hello,
I'm
Diane.
Diana from FSM Media,
Hi.
and I loved the movie. Watched the original in the theaters in 1983.
Oh, cool.
So, yeah. So
You're one of the
this
few.
feels like this feels like a love letter to the fans with all of the call outs that are in it. Did you have any say in any of the iconic scenes or like the props? You knew that some of them had to be in there, like the
Oh, for
lamp.
sure.
Or,
Yeah, I've been sort of developing this for nearly 4 years, so it was, a exercise and really wanting to get it right. So I co-wrote the story, produced the film, and wanted to make sure that we were doing it right. And glad you feel that way about the callbacks. It's easy to lean into them and just kind of redo scenes based on the original iconic scenes. But I think then you have kind of a hollow movie. So it was important to have its own story, but that people want some access to those things. So in some of the flashbacks and the voices, and I think too, it's like, for any of us who have gone back to our childhood homes, which a lot of us have as adults, it's a weird feeling. It kind of looks the same, but it's not, but it kind of feels the same. And you almost hear voices or echoes, you see things. And then even I think for Ralphie's character to go back to Homan, and also we all probably know, you want to be a success, but then maybe you haven't quite measured up yet, and your friends think you're a big success. So it's a combustible feeling. But we tried to balance giving enough Easter eggs, nostalgia, right, and callbacks, but not having the movie rely on them, because it would have been easy to do that. And I think, for those of you that have seen it, I love when I pick up the lampshade in the attic, and I don't know if you saw, you start to hear the saxophone, then I just throw it away to grab the typewriter. It's like, it's sort of this almost frustrating, but in a good way, because I think that's real. It's like, I'm way past that, and I've got something that I'm looking for. So we tried to tease, and then there's a little shot of the BB gun when I'm writing the story. That's kind of, I don't know if you guys watched it on laptops or whatever, but it's just in the foreground. So they're there. And I don't know did anyone watch the credits? Okay, cool. So it's a good thing that I got to remember to let people know. We do a lot of still photos of the original composition of certain shots, and then how we married and matched the composition of those shots. And there's quite a few shot for shot elements that are the same, that aren't even necessarily really story elements, but just we wanted to do. Like when I'm sitting with my mom and the fuse goes out in front of, that was really the ending shot of the movie with Darren and Melinda in the original. So there's lots of cool moments like that. Sorry, that's a very long answer to your question.
Thank you.
Robin, go ahead.
Hi, Peter. I'm Robin
Hi.
Davis.
Hi, Robin.
On themagnificent.com. I'm just so happy that you gave this gift to everybody. It's such a highly anticipated sequel. I think it's going to do really well. It's beautiful. Everything that you've said so far just touches on the heart of the film. So thank you for that.
Oh, for sure. Thank you.
I'd love to know, what lessons do you think families can learn this time around?
Through the film?
Yeah, through the film.
Yeah, I do think both movies are, if you're connecting to that character, it doesn't seem like he's going to get his goal at really either movie, because the journeys are challenging. And I think it's one of the things I like about Ralphie. He's pretty relentless in his pursuits. Don't quit, don't give up. The outcome will always be different than what you anticipate, that's for sure. But part of the joy is trying and being on that journey. you know, and I like that he's also a dreamer. He's still got his fantasies, and yes, they're a little elevated, and thinks he's going to win the Pulitzer and all that. It doesn't happen, but it's okay to dream. And I like that that's, you know, it's a very associated with youth, that quality, but it was important to me as he got older to say, he's still got to be a dreamer. You know, you don't give that up. And that's okay. We have to make them more adult, but I don't want him. And he has nightmares, you know, of it too. It's like the jail sequence. He has, you know, when you live in that place, you think things at some moments are going to go great, and then you think they go horrifically wrong. The truth is never that extreme. I can relate to that, you know, for sure. I have daydreams and day nightmares of things going horribly wrong or horribly well. So I like those qualities, and I think they're, you know, I think they're good to learn from. And I think, as I said earlier, that, you know, doesn't matter if there's grudges or challenges or difficulties, you know, let them go around the holidays, be with the people you love. And I think learn to appreciate what you do have, because, you know, a lot of people have more than sometimes they're willing to admit or to see. And it's the truth. And, you know, family is a very important thing. And to be with them around that time is really the greatest gift.
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Yeah, for sure.
Nicole, go ahead.
Hi, Peter. Thank you for joining us.
Hello.
My name is Nicole Mucci. I'm with the Multicultural Maven. Love the film.
Thank
and
you.
one of the things that, you know, from the original one, now the sequel, is so much comedic aspect to the sequel. And so I was curious, you know, family, the casting was so well. Did you guys improvise on a lot of those scenes, or were those things that you kind of already wrote into the script?
A little bit, both. You know, the unique thing about this one, well, we have Julie Haggerty, who's, you know, might be one of the most iconic comedic performances in Airplane of all time, right? So she is just so naturally funny. Erin Hayes has done such tremendous comedic work her whole life. So to have them as sort of a base, and here's one thing I asked for, is the old school way. This might be inside, but films long ago, you used to rehearse, and it was just a part of the process. You've probably read filmmakers' books or looked at them. They talk about they'd rehearse. It's been eliminated from our business for whatever reason. Every department gets prep, but the actors get zero, which is strange because they have to jump in day one and have chemistry. I asked for it because I wanted it, thought it'd be important, and also because for me, it had been a minute since I had stepped into kind of a leading role, and I wanted to really find Ralphie again, not just in my living room screaming in a mirror, making my family feel enormously uncomfortable. So I was able to have that time, and a lot of the comedy comes from that. So a lot of it's preparation, I think, and then we could sort of distill down the writing. But on the days like the caroling, yeah, we have some fun. We play with some different things. We go super extreme. And we did that too in the fantasies. Like we'd do a take where I was super broad, and then when I was more grounded, we kind of gravitated towards the broader ones. They just were funnier. So we kind of gave ourselves the license to play a little bit and say, okay, we'll find it, because tone was so important to us for it to feel like it fits with the original movie, that they were kind of made, you know, by the same people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Renisha, go ahead.
Hello, my name is Renisha, and I'm from QueenThrifty.com.
Hi.
I just wanted to know if you ever had the opportunity to take your family to the original Christmas house located in Cleveland.
Good question. I have not actually, but we were able to, and I've heard great things about it, but we were able to recreate the whole street for this movie, which was kind of magical, and build the house to detail. So for me, being able to kind of oversee that, and then I think, you know, we had one paint color, and during prep, we said, no, it's not quite right. We repainted it. I mean, we sort of took really painstaking detail to match what we thought that house would be plus 30 years, and that whole street, the Bumpus house next door. What would the evolution of that 30 years later be, just with newer cars, slightly newer cars, and more gear. So being able to do that and recreate was kind of a surreal feeling, I think. And for the cast, in fact, a lot of the cast wasn't part of the exteriors of the house, but they were in town. I called them. I said, you guys got to get down here. This is wild, when we got done with it. And so the whole cast came down and we took some photos in front of the house and they walked around. They couldn't believe it because it felt like we were teleported back to Cleveland to where that house was.
And that's a traditional annual thing for my family and I. So thank you for that awesome opportunity.
Oh, thank you very much.
Kimmy, go ahead.
Hi, Peter. I'm Kami from themamadiaries.com.
Hi.
Thank you for speaking with us today.
Oh, for
so
sure.
I loved that, like within the movie, that we could totally see you as a little boy. I mean, you could just like, it was awesome. It was so great. I would love to know, what was your favorite scene to film?
Of the new one. It's a good, I mean, I think my favorite scene on paper was the sledding sequence, which, you know, I'm not really in very much, but what, you know, that's an example of trying to say, okay, Flick and Schwartz, what are they like now? What are they doing? They're still arguing for sure. What is their new version of that would need to be elevated? And similar to the original, which I've talked about a little bit, it didn't snow as much as we wanted it to. Same within the original. Like we had some crazy blizzards one day, like when Flick's tongue was on the pole and we were shooting that in Canada. And then in Cleveland, we had struggles. And back then, I think we used, it felt like shaving cream because it was stuck all over our boots and foam. Now we've got modern day fake snow, which is, I think, what diapers are made out of, they told me, and some water. So it creates this kind of cool thing. That was probably my favorite scene on paper because I just love the idea that, and kind of believe this, those dynamics you have as friends, as kids, sometimes never go away, even when you become older, or like a brother sister, you know, like you don't, it's like the thing with Randy, you know, we were trying to find what the right dynamic was. And I think liked turning some of the characters into unpredictable positions. So Randy being an enormously successful person who was, you know, a little brother to me and hiding under a kitchen cabinet, sort of afraid of his own shadow, is invariably the one in the family that becomes the most successful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Melissa?
Hi, Peter. Thanks for talking to us today. I'm Mel from the Mommyhood Chronicles. I really enjoyed the Christmas story. My question is, coming from filming this as a boy to now having a son in the movie and a daughter in the movie, how was it in terms of working with the kids and the dynamic with the kids?
It was great. You know, obviously having been a child actor and worked with a lot of kids over the year, it's important to get the right kids. And we spent quite a bit of time in the audition process, and we did a lot of chemistry reads, and a lot of them were actually like this. We used Zoom a lot because we were looking all across the country. And so, and then you do kind of mixing and matching with with a Mark and a Julie, and Juliana we had seen early in the process and was just remarkable. And River we had seen fairly early in the process and was remarkable. And I remember Bob Clark, the director of the original, told me later, he said I was the first person he auditioned for the role. However the casting had set it up, you know, they had big weeks and weeks of it. Here, Peter Billingsley was first. And he remembered seeing me and going, oh, that's my guy. But no way could I hire the first person, obviously. So he went around and then came back around and did it. And sometimes you do want to just sort of explore and see. But, you know, River and Juliana really stayed in our minds. And then they had great chemistry together. And it's fun. And I enjoy working with kids. I like it. The way they say kids and animals you should avoid, two of which we have in this thing. But I enjoy it because they don't come with any history. They are so pure and joyful and want to have fun and participate. And they can just be so real. So, you know, it's easy to kind of direct them within a scene. It's easy to throw them stuff and they have no preconceived notions of what things should be. So they're willing to try anything, which is great.
Thank you.
Jenna,
Thank
go
you.
ahead.
Hi, Peter. My name is Jana, and I'm with an outlet called Whiskey and Sunshine, and I co-host a podcast called Geek Girl Digital. So you talked very briefly about Easter eggs and nods earlier, but do you have an explicit Easter egg that is in this film that's your favorite that you pulled from the previous film?
Yeah, I think I touched on it. It's the moment after I've gotten the star and gone through Scut and come home and am sitting alone in front of the tree. And my mom, Julia Haggerty, comes and sits next to me. And that is the mirror image of virtually the final shot in the original when Melinda is done and they're watching the snow outside. And she just puts her hand on the old man's back, which is just enough to signal in that movie they're okay after the Battle of the Leg Lamp and everything. And it's this interesting idea of movies very much an homage to the old man and to Darren McGavin, that you can feel with the passing of him. And so felt kind of right that, it's now kind of mom and son that are in this together. And so I liked, and we took many hours to get that right and to get sort of the camera move and the setup of that right. And then just a fun one. I don't know if you noticed, but remember when we're in school and we open the desk drawer and there's all those things and the fake teeth clacking. When I try to bribe the publisher and he opens the drawer, it's like his drawer is full of other bribes, hopeful bribes. If you look in that, no one's seen it. It's probably too wide, but we do this stuff that we think people are going to see. I think one of them was like, hope you enjoy the read, like S. King, like, because we saw Stephen King's first book wasn't published till 1974 or something. So this idea that maybe these other great writers were like chasing this gatekeeper and he's going to keep them all out.
That was great. And you had this side by side in the credits of that one too.
Yeah, exactly. And then some other ones, I guess
That's
breaking
great.
the fourth wall. That was another thing that is so rare and weird in that movie when after I lie to my mom about getting hit by an icicle, break the fourth wall and laugh at the camera. It was one thing we were really checklisting to do and weren't sure where. And we just said on set, we kept looking for an opportunity to do it. And then after the Randy felt like the right one to do. And it turned out it was kind of almost the same framing because that was in the bathroom that was right upstairs. So
Thank you so much.
yeah, thank you.
Lynette?
Hi, I'm Lynette Fernandez with FantasticLife.com. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, for sure.
So I was going to ask about some fun facts about the films, not necessarily having to do with Easter eggs, but I feel like we've talked about that a lot. So I'm going to give you the choice, either some fun facts about the film. I'm trying to be generous here.
Sure.
Or I know that you do a lot behind the scenes. So
Yeah.
how does that compare to you being in front of the camera again?
It has been a while, certainly since I've done lead. I was talking about because I have produced with Vince Vaughn for a long time, and we're able to produce this movie together, and we met on an after-school special, if you guys remember those, when I was 18, and I think that was my last lead role. So it's been a while, and that's when I was trying to get out of acting and behind the scenes, and I've cameoed and stuff throughout my career and hopped into little small roles or little supporting roles, but I think that's like really my last lead role that I've done. So it's been quite some time. It was great when you build something from the ground up. It's much easier to kind of transition and to immerse when you have a good team around you. It's easy, and I think the producing is sort of effortless, but to jump back into acting, and who knows, it'll probably open more stuff for me to want to do because I really enjoyed it. Ralphie was a kind of easy transition back in, I think, because I guess in many ways that he's sort of never left me.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
Drew?
Hi, Peter. I'm Drew Bennett from Ben Spark Family Adventures. Thank you for joining us.
Drew? Yeah, sure.
There were so many great moments in this movie that harken back to the original. Were there any scenes that you just wanted to get in there but just didn't end up working overall? So much of it worked so well. Was there anything that just didn't make it?
Well, I think the big debate was, the early debate was the balance of like bunny suit and those things. Mm-hmm. And I was pretty steadfast that less is more with that stuff. Show a little bit, but move on. But the big debate was the gun, I think. And like, should there be almost a B story or, should there be more made of it. And I don't know if you noticed, but when I finally write the story, there's one shot that kind of goes behind me. It might be harder to see if you're watching on a laptop. On TV, you can, and the gun's in frame. And we just wanted to show it once, as though, but it's kind of out of a box. It's sort of like it's there, but it's, his life has moved on. And I think that was the biggest debate internally was, will an audience need or require sort of that as an anchor again for some reason? And just felt strongly that we had parts of a good enough story that we didn't need it, but I kind of wanted it to go. And then obviously the last words, it becomes Gene Shepard's voice, the original narration. You kind of you realize he wrote A Christmas Story. So they kind of, the two pieces fit together, and it kind of becomes the origin story of the first film.
I thought that was a perfect touch. I did see that in the foreground, and just it was a perfect touch, perfect amount for that.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
We felt the confidence there too, and I think as the scenes got better in the movie and the movie's coming together, it's some people are always pushing for more, and I, myself and Clay and Vince and the filmmaking team was just saying, no, like trust it, let it stand on its own, because if it doesn't, it's never going to be anything more than everyone, this sort of gimmick kind of thing, and let's take a swing. Let's see if we can make something that has a little bit of sustenance and can stand on its own.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and lastly, we'll finish with Kristen, please.
All right.
Hi, Peter. I'm Kristen with EA Extreme Fun. So I know that you were involved in the creating process of the new film. So you knew like what scenes or like what the scenes would look like and props and everything like that. But how was it actually, once it all came together and you went into that role, like how did it feel to like actually see everything? Was it like deja vu, like kind of seeing
completely
all of
the
original props and sets? And is there anything that you wish that made it to this film from the first, besides the old man, of course, but anything that you wish made it in that didn't?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of being deja vu, I think it was 100% that sense for myself and for all the returning cast, because we had the resources to recreate the house to detail inside the furniture. I mean, we matched, everything as what it would be for a family that's not very wealthy 30 years later, right? Like, okay, there's probably a new refrigerator, or there was a refrigerator, but certain stuff doesn't get the upgrade. If it works, it works. Certain furniture doesn't get the upgrade. So a ton of memories came back to me, particularly being inside the house, because we spent so much time in that living room, the dining room, and the kitchen. And almost those deja vu things where you're like, oh, whoops, no, we're here. We're not back in 83. Like it feels so familiar. And that was really nice. And anything that we hoped would make it, I don't think so. I mean, we talked a little bit about the discipline and the Easter eggs. We wanted, the bunny suit, the lampshade, the gun, those things to be a part of it. But I like that, you sort of update the characters and they get their day as sort of adults. And so to me, that was important to kind of fight for and flip the dynamics of who you thought they might be and really who they are today.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed watching.
I appreciate it. Thank you. You
You're
bet.
welcome.
Thank you all so much for joining us. That's all the time we have for this, and have a great rest of your day.